And at number 10 we have This Is Your Death. Featuring a cover that was basically the 1974 version of clickbait, in this issue a bomb threat is called in when Captain Boomerang is being transported out of a holding cell, which literally has nothing to do with what's on the cover. This issue also features Captain Boomerang angling his body to become a boomerang shape to get away, aerodynamically. Just because you're good at boomeranging doesn't mean you get to be one, Captain Boomerang. And at number 9 we have The Heaviest Man Alive. This one's from November 1962, issue 132 of The Flash, another story that focuses on his weight. So there's this planet called Gobdor that likes to air Earth's natural disasters on their main television network, and after an executive catches wind of the Flash being a little bit of a celebrity on Earth, he decides to use him to get better ratings by putting people in danger, and then shooting radiation at the Flash to make him extremely heavy so he has difficulty running, where he literally sinks into the cement. But if he runs backwards it reverses the effects, because that makes scientific sense. And at number 8 we have The Mirror Master's Magic Bullet. So take a look at this cover from 1961, issue 119 of The Flash. Seems like Mirror Master has found a way to murder the Flash by shooting a bullet through a mirror at him, right? Nah. The story consists of Mirror Man getting his butt kicked by the Flash, and then retaliates by creating a magic bullet that when he shoots it through a mirror image of the Flash, makes the Flash his slave. Because that's not skewed marketing at all. Speaking of skewed marketing, and at number 7 we've got The Doom Scarecrow. This story appears in The Flash 118 from 1961 and features Barry Allen as the Flash in Hollywood, helping out on a movie set as a consultant, because he definitely doesn't have anything better to do with his time, like save lives. Nope. And the Doom Scarecrow? Well, it's a prop that apparently contains evidence and the Flash needs to save it from a bullet striking it so it doesn't catch on fire, because you know the props people just probably just couldn't shoot it, so that would solve the problem. And at 6 we have The Top is Alive and Well in Henry Allen. So this one is from The Flash 303 volume 1 from 1981. Barry finds out that his father's been having an affair with a younger woman. After doing some investigating, Barry confronts his father, and turns out his dad is dressed up as the Top. Now Barry previously killed the Top by accidentally giving him brain damage. But don't worry guys, because then Barry finds out that his real father is actually dead and it's just the ghost of the Top inside of his dad's body. That's not traumatic in the slightest.
Number 5. Pancake Time. When Domino was sent to invite Deadpool to join the X-Men, he had a different idea. He had previously cooked up 372,844 pancakes and put them in a pool. It was all part of the plan. He was then on a rooftop when Domino came to talk to him, and he threatened her with his gun, forcing her onto the glass roof, then caused her to fall into the pool of pancakes. And you may be thinking, well, that's pretty weird that he made them just for a dumb joke, but it's even dumber than that because they weren't even meant to be part of the joke. He just straight up made them because he was bored. Number 4. Ice-T is an X-Man. Well, not really. But apparently Deadpool gets him mixed up with the X-Men. In 2008's Deadpool number 17, when Deadpool was trying to kill Kincaid in the name of the X-Men, to convince his inner monologue that it's okay to kill the police officers that were after him, he claims that the X-Men kill cops and that they even wrote a song about it. To which the inner voice says, that was Ice-T. But hey, Ice-T, Iceman, I can understand the confusion. Plus, he, like the X-Men, has a penchant for black leather. Man, is Ice-T an X-Man? Number 3. That time he tried to prevent the creation of more heroes by killing the fictional characters that inspired a number of the heroes. In Deadpool Killustrated, we see Deadpool going metacidal, killing a whole whack of our favorite fictional characters from various books, slicing out Don Quixote's eye, tearing through Moby Dick's blowhole, even stabbing Pinocchio in the head, and momentarily seeing him as his inspired hero vision. Don't get me wrong, this whole series was absolutely amazing. It was so sick seeing what characters inspired what heroes. But the dumb thing is the premise of why he was sent there in the first place. The scientists working for him thought that since he knew his own world too well, sending him to another world could confuse him enough to let them defeat him. But they knew if he killed the Ideaverse, it would erase a bunch of their world. And they still sent him there, rather than, I don't know, putting him in a steel room and never letting him out. Kinda dumb. Number 2. Gotta have my hippity hops. In Deadpool Suicide Kings number 1, Deadpool was offered a very lucrative job, where he would receive $1 million for saving a young rich man's family. At first he was reluctant to take the job. What changes his mind? He imagines what he could do with $1 million. And what he imagines is him on a hippity hop surrounded by sexy ladies who are also on hippity hops. And then he asks where one would buy hippity hops in bulk. Yeah, that's a wise economic choice. Number 1. Genius tactics to cushion your fall. In 2013's Deadpool number 10, Deadpool found himself falling off a building, but he comes up with an amazing plan to help him fall to safety. He decides to eject his poo to make him lighter. This sounds pretty dumb, but if I'm being honest, if I found myself falling off a building, I'd likely find myself ejecting my poo whether I plan to or not. But I'm not convinced it would actually work.
And at 10, the trial of the Flash. Time to get homicidal. So the trial of the Flash was part of a story arc that ran for several issues in 1984. Flash kills the Reverse Flash and has to go on a trial for manslaughter, but despite his legal woes, keeps getting attacked by villains in his rogue gallery, which results in his face becoming disfigured. The Kid Flash actually testifies against him on trial too, and it features some of the funniest covers in Flash canon, including him lying in the fetal position in a prison cell. And at number 9, we have Robot Assassination. This one takes place in the future, the year 2971 to be exact, where a robotic John Wilkes Booth is attempting to kill a robotic Abraham Lincoln, who is leader of the Earth West, which he does, and it gets weird. Anyway, the reason they're in the future in the first place is to visit Iris's parents, so I'll just leave you guys with that to think about. Glad that Walking TV though told them that Abe Lincoln died. Always useful. And at number 8, we've got Music Festivals Aren't Always Fun. This one's from a story called The Evil Sound of Music. Real creative title there, DC. Barry Allen was attending music festivals before it was cool. In issue 207 of The Flash from June 1971, Barry and his wife Iris decide to go to a music festival. But oh no guys, cause Sargon the Sorcerer also goes, and oh god, the drama that ensues. Never want to run into your frenemies at music festivals, totally kills the vibe. Anyway, Sargon uses magic to take control of the music. Demons show up, the music turns to shrieking, and overall it's just a bad trip. And at 7, Assassinating the President. Almost. This one's from Flash issue 200. Also known as Count 200 and Die. In 1970, a foreign spy named Dr. Lou brainwashes the Flash into thinking he is bringing hairspray to his wife when he is really attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. Common mistake happens to all of us, doesn't it? So this brainwashing makes Flash think that Dr. Lou is his wife, and the hairspray, well, it's actually a laser gun. But don't worry guys, cause Dr. Lou then kisses him and gives herself away, cause it's not the brand of lipstick that Iris usually wears, so Flash snaps out of it, cause lipstick flavors they're not really that different, but I guess we'll let that one slide. And at 6, he gets his leg stolen. In the Flash issue number 146, one of Flash's rogues, Mirror Master, steals his legs, which just so happens to be responsible for his super speed in this one, even though Speed Force. So this issue starts off with Flash taking a success course, and one of his classmates is actually Mirror Master in disguise. But don't worry, because then he reveals himself, goes up in front of the class, gloats for a little bit, and then runs away after using a new mirror weapon that somehow switches their legs. So Mirror Master is crazy fast and knocks out the Flash. But that's fine, because this was all basically for nothing, since they then return to class, Mirror Master has his legs switched back, and then Flash punches him unconscious. Like I said, Silver Age, don't question it.
Number 5. Batman puts Dick in traction. This is from the Superman/Batman crossover comic from 2003, about 54 issues in, where Batman and Superman swap powers and Batman goes a little nuts. He's just spending all his time non-stop crime fighting, chasing the night across the globe. Dick eventually tries to take him down by waiting till he's been in the night for quite a while, so away from the sun and hence less powerful. But Dick can't take down a super-powered Batman, and he ends up getting horribly injured. Bruce attacks him, brutally crushing his jaw and nearly breaking his spine. The injuries are so horrific, Alfred doesn't know if he can forgive him, even if Bruce is less stable than usual because of all the powers. Batman smacks his Robins far more than I'd like, but when he does, it's always a la gasp moment. Let's talk about a word smack that many people forgot about in at number 4. Number 4. Green Arrow punches Speedy. This occurred in the famous Green Arrow Green Lantern team-up comic with the cover, "My Ward, a Junkie?" wherein Green Arrow, who has a very harsh stance on drugs, which is kind of the complete opposite of how he was portrayed for the rest of the series, which is very interesting, because that series pitted Hal and Ollie against each other ideologically. Oftentimes Ollie's the more leftist person who was just berating Hal constantly for being a space cop and doing what the Guardians tell him. But in this, when he discovers that Roy Harper is on drugs, he flips out, and Speedy goes, "Fine, hit me if it'll make you feel better, guess you don't know everything," and so Ollie does hit him. He just can't handle it. How could someone under his tutelage be on drugs? He doesn't lift a finger to help him either. No, it's Black Canary and Hal who help him out and see that he gets the help that he needs. Then Ollie shows up and is all, "Oh, I'm sorry, I overreacted." Why does no one remember this? They remember the cover, but not the contents. Too far. Be better to your wards. Stop hitting them. Number 3. Dick Grayson kills the Joker. This happened, for real, in canon, not an Elseworld story. This happened in Joker's Last Laugh, a storyline wherein the Joker convinced everybody that he had a brain tumor and he decides that he's gonna go out in style. He's going ham. He creates crazy Joker rain like falling from the sky. But Dick snaps when he finds Robin's, at the time Tim Drake's, costume shredded, and he he's had enough at this point. Jason is dead, Barbara was paralyzed because of the Joker, for Tim to be gone too was just too much for him. Dick would proceed to beat the Joker to death, only for Tim and Batman to show up and for him to realize it was a ruse. He starts to have a breakdown, but Batman is able to restart the Joker's heart. But Dick killed him, that's over the line. I'm sure the people of Gotham would have been fine with it though. Just saying. Number 2. Jean Grey and the Spider-Man Wolverine mind swap. This happened in the Ultimate Verse, the 1610. So here Wolverine was hitting on Jean and was not appreciated, so she swapped his mind with the person he would least like to be swapped with, and that turned out to be Peter Parker. And while Wolverine was in Peter's body, he hit on MJ. Just the whole thing was too far. Jean can play pretty fast and loose with her powers. Poor Peter, he had no idea what was going on. He just woke up as Wolverine. I wouldn't want to wake up as Wolverine. He has lots of enemies. Also, everything would smell a lot. Also, hitting on MJ. Gross. But I mean, Wolverine and Squirrel Girl, never forget. And number 1. Ant-Man creeps on Carol Danvers. Now this Ant-Man isn't Hank Pym, and it's not Scott Lang. So get ready to get out your torches and pitchforks for someone new. This is Eric O'Grady. And this happened in The Irredeemable Ant-Man. So well, they named it right. This Ant-Man is just a creeper, and his thing is spying on girls in the shower. He does it to a woman he saves from a purse snatcher, follows her home, shrinks, and then he's creeping in the shower. Now Eric wasn't supposed to have a suit. He was just a low-level SHIELD agent, but he ended up getting his hands on one anyway, through a bit of a clandestine means kind. But he would fight crime, so it does count. And he would have a bit of a change of heart later on, we'll talk about that in a sec. So how did he end up peeping on Carol? Well, this was because he hid in a random woman's purse for shower purposes. And then when he gets out, it turns out that it is Carol Danvers. He spies on her and takes pictures before she notices. Gross. Grady would later vow to change and become a better hero, but this is hard to come back from. Look at his face in these panels.
Number 10. Castro and Pals. In a time of tension between the United States and Cuba, DC decided to have Fidel Castro throw Wally West a party for his 21st birthday, after working together with Cuba to fight off an alien invasion. It was just so weird to see some of our favorite heroes partying it up with the Cuban dictator, and it was pretty clear that it was all created to make a point. Now, to DC's credit, it wasn't an anti-Cuba propaganda comic. They even portrayed Castro pretty well, with him coming off as quite dignified. But it was just such a silly idea that seemed so forced and frankly dumb. Number 9. Deathstroke fights. This is hard to include because I love both Deathstroke and the Flash, but their fights can be pretty frustrating as a reader. Because even though Deathstroke is a genius villain, the writers always end up making his plans depend on the Flash being unable to put 2 and 2 together, and usually also require him to be way clumsier than he logically should be. For instance, in one fight, Deathstroke orchestrates a series of explosions in order to manipulate the path of the Flash to cause him to come impaled on a sword. And if that was a normal guy avoiding explosions, I would totally get it. But the Flash is supposed to have insane reflexes. In the moment it took him to get stabbed, he could have pulled down Deathstroke's pants, kicked him in the nuts, and run away. Again, I get that it's hard to write fights with Flash, but I hate that he always ends up looking like a dummy. Number 8. Flash is a bad boyfriend. In the early Barry Allen comics, it was something of a running gag that Barry was always late. Running gag. The Flash, this is gold. Eventually, after Allen was late once again from stopping Mirror Master, his girlfriend Iris broke up with him. So he went, guess I'll gaslight her until she takes me back. Using Mirror Master's gadgets, he causes Iris to see his face in every reflective surface she sees, so she takes him back, thinking she subconsciously wants him back. Unfortunately for him, he slips on a mirror before their makeup date, causing him to be late for the date and get dumped again. And let's be real, he kinda deserved it. That's a pretty lame thing to do to your girlfriend. Or ex-girlfriend. Number 7. Barry Allen's evil twin. In a story that sounds like it comes out of Days of Our Lives, it was revealed that Barry Allen actually had a twin from whom he was separated at birth and who was raised by criminals. His twin went on to start a dynasty of successors who used power-stealing gems to kill descendants of various Flashes throughout time. The whole evil twin thing was just way too cliche for me. It wasn't really that relevant other than giving a weak explanation for Reverse Flash. Number 6. Rainbow Raider. Rainbow Raider is pretty infamous amongst fans of the Flash for being straight up ridiculous. Roy G. Bigelow, a takeoff on the acronym for the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv, had a pretty dumb origin story which is eclipsed only by the silliness of his powers. He was born colorblind, and his optometrist father made him a pair of goggles that didn't cure his colorblindness. What they did do, however, is allow him to manipulate light in a bunch of insane ways. While his powers vary depending on the iteration, he's shown the ability to create solid objects out of light, like a flying rainbow, turn people invisible, and even manipulate people's emotions. And what did he do with these powers? Well, petty theft, of course. My question is, why could his father create goggles that have these magical abilities, but he couldn't make them let him see colors? Also, how would a colorblind dude know how to use colors if he can't see them?
Number 5. John Stewart kills MoGo. Let's get some love for some other Green Lanterns going too far. It can't always be Hal murdering the Corps and snapping Sinestro's neck. So back during all the War of Light emotion spectrum stuff that was going on, John Stewart had an indigo ring, so compassion. Him and Kyle Rayner, who had the blue ring of hope, were facing off against MoGo, who had been corrupted by Krona. Long story short, he was trying to free the entities that powered the rings. It was a whole thing. The point? MoGo delivers rings to new recruits, and he was being corrupted and sending out corrupted ones, sucking lanterns into his gravitational pull, everything. So John Stewart, compassionate soul that he is, decides there's no other way except to channel black energy, the energy of death, and destroy MoGo, all while Kyle is begging him to find another way. This is one of those we need drama moments, because you get the cool panel of MoGo exploding, which does look good. There are no stakes, MoGo is fine. But for not even trying to find another way, even while wielding the Ring of Compassion, too far, though some would say necessary. Number 4. Professor X erasing Vulcan. There were so many choices for Professor X, but I decided on this one because of the implications and ripple effects. Vulcan is the sibling of Havoc and Cyclops that they never knew about. Vulcan was abducted from his mother's corpse and hyper-aged in an induction chamber. He's not okay. So extremely long story short, Vulcan was part of a wave of mutants sent by Professor X to Krakoa. It all goes wrong, and so Xavier wipes the memory of Vulcan and the mission from everyone's minds. This was especially significant for Cyclops, who would learn that he had a brother and that his existence had been kept from him for his own good. A lot of this has been retconned in terms of the how and the why and well, Krakoa, but the mind wipe remains. And it was part of the big rift of mistrust that formed between Cyclops and Professor X, and we know where that led. Magneto was right, killing Xavier, mutant Hitler. So erasing people's minds for their own good, which means deciding what is good for them, too far. And how many times has he done this? How many more retcons are we gonna pull out? Number 3. Batman kills the KG Beast. Batman doesn't kill anymore, not since the Golden Age, you cry. But oh no, there are pockets, stories here and there where Batman finds he must take a life. And the KG Beast arc was one of them. Although like everyone else, he got better. I just want someone to stay dead. Is that too much to ask? I'll get a crowbar. In this arc, the KG Beast was sent by the Soviets to assassinate Ronald Reagan. So Batman knows that if he captures the KG Beast, well, he'll just go back to Russia and nothing will happen. So he lures him into a death trap in the sewer. And when the KG Beast offers him the chance to fight to the death, he just shuts him in the sewer, leaving him there to starve to death. Cold. Ice cold. This was even before Jason died, but seeing this, can we really be surprised by how Jason turned out? He was watching people starve to death in the sewer. Only he didn't, so it's fine, I guess. Number 2, Civil War II. All of it and everybody in it. So this drama about whether or not the Inhuman with precognitive abilities, Ulysses, should be used to preempt crimes was a mess, and everybody went too far. So behind the scenes, writers only had at most 4 months to plan this entire event, and it shows. Motivations are weak and characters suffer because of it. Carol Danvers becomes a complete fascist who gets many heroes on her side killed. Hawkeye would be convinced to kill Bruce Banner by Bruce Banner. Rick Jones would die. Carol would beat Tony into a coma, and none of it mattered. Unlike the first Civil War, which had stakes for everyone, like immediate stakes, while this arc could have had the same thing if it was presented differently, it didn't happen because it was presented as, oh no, my boyfriend died and I don't want to feel that way again, arrest everyone before they do anything, versus Tony being like, hey, that's bad, don't do that, didn't you learn from what I did in the first Civil War, don't be me. It's just all the heroes fighting amongst themselves and was very poorly received. So what could be worse than that? Why, the first time this happened. Number 1, Civil War. So this was supposed to be a story where both sides would have valid points, and we should all come away enriched. Nope. Let's go through some of the things. So Tony manipulated Spider-Man to revealing his secret identity, then bailed out when there were repercussions. Him and Reed constructed a secret interdimensional prison in the negative zone, where they housed criminals and superheroes who wouldn't register. This was mostly Reed. Captain America arranged a meeting between the two where he was like, what if we just took him out? They were best friends before this, by the way. This arc was in no way nuanced. From the start, it was just Tony is wrong and Cap is right, and then Tony lived down to that. Also, even in how it first escalated, with Cap being declared a traitor because Maria Hill asks him if he's here for all this registration, and he mentions no because he lived through World War II and has seen what registering can do. Then she just declares him a traitor and pulls gunmen on him. Gunmen who were already waiting, by the way. Also, Reed and Hank Pym made a clone of Thor so that they could have a brute member for their side since Thor was dead and they had just recently shot the Hulk into space. No one looks good here. Everyone went too far. This would lead to things like One More Day and just a mess all around. It also deserves number 1 because it failed to deliver on its promise of being a thought-provoking, nuanced event. You have to pull out of it to discuss the nuance because the comic sure doesn't. It's too bad because it really is an interesting issue.
Number 10. Fountain drinking. I suppose classifying this as dumb may be a bit of a stretch since, hey, the guy needs water and it's right there, but it's pretty undeniable that he looks ridiculous. Plus, and this is just a personal thing, but either drink from the jet or scoop the water with your hands. What's the point of doing both? You're wasting precious drinking time, Groot. Number 9. Hitchhiker's Groot to the Galaxy. In Groot number 1 from 2015, we saw Groot and Rocket in one of the funniest adventures yet, trying to hitchhike their way across the galaxy. First of all, Groot looks unbelievably adorable in this issue. Second, the whole idea is kinda dumb, but entertaining enough that I accept it. But then they're picked up by a trio of shape-shifting aliens who are basically the Three Stooges. Again, I can't stress this enough, I found this hilarious and enjoyed it, but it was kinda dumb. Especially when Groot and Rocket just snuck out using an escape pod while the trio argued amongst themselves. Number 8. Okay, gonna have to take another moment from Groot number 1 because my goodness was that full of dumb moments. Soon after escaping the shapeshifters, Groot and Rocket find themselves on a planet analogous to Krypton, where we see Kor-El and Zora preparing to send their infant son to Earth so it can survive their planet's imminent destruction, until Rocket and Groot take their only escape pod and doom the child. Again, was this funny? Absolutely. But this was both dumb of them, since they could have taken the kid with them, and incredibly cruel of them, because they could have taken the kid with them. It's just savage. Number 7. Okay, last one from Groot number 1, I promise. It's a pretty easy promise because it's the last panel of the issue. After being attacked by a team of bounty hunters, Rocket gives Groot his booster so that Groot can get help. He says, "Go tell everyone exactly what happened." But then Groot responds with, "I am Groot." And Rocky remembers who it is that he's tasked with explaining something. You basically couldn't have chosen a worse envoy. This was interesting because it wasn't Groot being dumb this time, but Rocket, which is always a welcome breath of fresh air. Number 6. Swimsuit ogling. In the ever-ridiculous Marvel Swimsuit Special number 2, we saw Groot ogling the scantily clad bodies of Aurora and Northstar. And he is so not subtle about it. You just see a giant head staring at them open mouthed. It's pretty ridiculous, and even though this technically isn't the same Groot that we've come to love in Guardians, he's still Groot, and this moment is incredibly dumb for so many reasons, not the least of which being that this comic should not exist in the first place. That said, hey, it gives me an excuse to look at sexy heroines in bathing suits, so I won't complain. And Ghost Rider is smoking hot. Get it? Because of the fire. I'm clever.
Number 5. Spider-Man stabbed Deadpool. So Spider-Man and Deadpool had a team-up series, Spider-Man / Deadpool, and for a period versus when they weren't on as good terms. It ran for 50 issues. So during this whole thing, which largely occurred because of the pair's popularity as a ship, people love them some Spideypool, and the comic does at times pander, but back to the point. Deadpool is bending over backwards to prove to Spidey what a good person he is and that he deserves his friendship. He is to the point where he's willing to be a punching bag for Peter's issues. Peter, well, he's working through some things, including feeling like part of his life is wrong or missing. Thanks, Mephisto. And at one point when he's careening more into violence and Deadpool calls him out for it, he stabs him right through the chest. He actually kills him, but it's Deadpool, so he gets better. Peter played pretty fast and loose with Deadpool's healing factor in this series. Stabbing your friends? Too far. Number 4. Professor X fakes his own death. So we have so many Professor X moments to choose from, and I went with this early one. It's a classic from Uncanny X-Men number 42, where Professor X dies in the arms of his devastated X-Men. But psych, he wasn't actually dead. The X-Men, these teens and young adults, just go it alone for 20 issues. Then Professor X just shows back up and was like, I was in the basement. He hid in the basement the entire time, because he was planning for an alien invasion. The person who actually died was Changeling, a reformed villain who wanted to redeem himself before dying of a terminal illness. So Professor X was like, wanna help me fake my own death? Hero style? So, 2 things. You could just have told them to leave you alone, and then subtly push them to do it with your powers if you really needed them to never bother you. 2, you could read their thoughts like all that morning from the basement the entire time, or just like, nope, I'm staying down here. That's cold. Number 3. Reed, the Council of Reeds. So you've heard about the Council of Reeds, where Reed joined up with a bunch of other versions of himself. So this council was formed by 3 Reeds, all with Infinity Gauntlets, and eventually the 616 Reed joined. But all these Reeds ended up in a battle with Celestials, and most of the Reeds died in this battle. Now our Reed deactivated the bridge after finding he couldn't give up his family the way the others had. So well, how is this too far? Well, he didn't tell his family, and one day his daughter Valeria snuck into the lab and reactivated the bridge. And so there were like 4 Reeds who had survived and they crossed over and died. Tell your family things so they don't accidentally open portals to other worlds and unleash evil. Number 2, Ms. Marvel and the Teenage Gestapo. So Ms. Marvel got pulled into Civil War II just like everyone else, but in her book it got weird. Now Ms. Marvel really looks up to Carol Danvers. She used to want to be her, hence her taking on her name when she got her embiggened Terrigen Mist powers. But when Carol shows up in her books, it's for Civil War II purposes, and to tell her to be part of what's basically a teenage Gestapo. You know, Ulysses predicting crimes before they happen, Minority Report. So basically it's a group of teens going around and policing their friends and neighbors, arresting them, taking them from their homes, and taking them to a warehouse prison outside the town. And at first Ms. Marvel is like, let's do this, and yup, people get arrested, even people that she knows personally, and it's just this whole arc. She eventually backs out, but she's still scarily loyal to Carol. She will lie to her family and beyond for her, and Carol makes her. It's just, did people think the implications of all this through? The worst part about this, and why both she and it went too far, is that it derailed the book. This event just stopped it cold, and it took a while to get back on track. It's a bad look. So what's worse than arresting your friends before they can do anything cause you're just following orders? Well, number 1, Wally West, Heroes in Crisis. Murder. So just everything with Heroes in Crisis vacillated so much. Some of it was really good and some of it was really terrible. So Heroes in Crisis was largely a murder mystery, so spoilers. But we finally discovered that the person who killed all the people at the secret sanctuary therapy session location was Wally West, beloved Flash from the late 80s and early 90s, who Dan Didio has been trying to kill for at least a decade. Wally read through all the patient files of the sanctuary at once, even though the files were supposed to be deleted, and all of that angst and out of characterness for some of the people made him go insane. He lashed out and killed a bunch of them, heroes and villains alike. Then he time traveled to kill himself later in the timeline to bring that corpse back to cover it up so it looked like he died too. Ladies and gentlemen, the hero who brought us rebirth. This whole thing was just a slap in the face for Wally fans, and for many it felt like forced pathos, and just too far. Wally was a hero and a kind soul, it just all felt very contrived. Lots of Heroes in Crisis does, and some of the continuity is really wonky. Now some people love this arc, and that's great. Everyone is approaching comics from a different stance and perspective, but as someone who has had Wally as the Flash their entire life until Barry's rebirth in the early 2000s, hashtag not my Wally.
And at 10 we have Batman pissed his pants. So while Kevin Smith can be credited for having a really solid and versatile career in the arts, his work on the widening gyre has, well, some questionable moments, especially when Bats is retelling the story of his first use of pyrotechnics to scare off some criminals. He reveals that the blast of fire was larger than expected, causing him to have a bladder spasm, so he peed his pants. Humanizing or humiliating? You guys tell me. At 9 we have All-Star Batman and Robin. So in this Frank Miller series that came out between 2005 and 2008, Batman is sort of a huge dick to Robin. Well, he's kind of a dick to everybody. But his emotional abuse of his young ward is just, well, impressive at best. While some critics and fans adore the series, you can't deny that Bruce is a little bit more aggressive than his usual self, and produces gems like these. But hey, he is the goddamn Batman after all. He also has sex with Black Canary after setting a bunch of criminals on fire. Whatever floats your boat, Bats. Up next, number 8, we have Batman Odyssey. Hey, you know what sounds like a really good idea in theory? A Ulysses version of Batman. And in practice? Well, apparently it means he rides dinosaurs, and meets Egyptian gods, and fights a telepathic Cyclops. And for whatever reason, there's a whole lot of nude, hairy Bruce Wayne throughout. Sounds like a good time. At 7 we have Batman and Superman cry over tentacles. It's arguable that World's Finest is a little notorious for some crazier moments. The story starts off with Batman and Superman being kind of sad, so Clark's like, let's do some male bonding at the Fortress of Solitude. And while they're there, a meteor is about to crash on Earth. The two investigate and find out that there's these tentacled creatures inside of it. And after a bit of a fuss and a bit of a battle, the two learn that the tentacles are actually alien probes created by the Krill, a race that needs to leech emotions from Earthlings. But the tentacles, who understand the meaning of life, sacrifice themselves in order to not damage Earth and its inhabitants, which causes Clark and Bruce to have a good cry over it. Beautiful, beautiful moment. Up next at 6 we have Batman Sings Christmas Carols. From Batman 219 in 1970, there's a story called The Silent Night of the Batman, where no one in Gotham commits crimes cause it's Christmas. Batman belts out some Christmas carols with the GCPD, and just look at his face, guys. He's so into it, and they spend the whole night doing it. It's like super adorable.
Number 5. Rocket suddenly gets it. While most of the other items on this list are actually pretty funny and interesting, this is one that actually kind of bothers me. In Groot number 2, we learned how Rocket came to understand Groot's language, and it was way too simple. After being locked up in a cell together for a few months, the two were fighting the guards together and Rocket just suddenly understood Groot. No build-up, no attempt to learn, he just suddenly got it. I was looking forward to seeing an explanation and this one was super disappointing and really dumb. Number 4. Hit by the Silver Surfer. At the end of Groot number 2, Groot was hit by a traveling Silver Surfer and his companion Don Greenwood. This was dumb for so many reasons. Not only is it insanely unlikely that Silver Surfer would be anywhere near Groot with the infinite universe for him, but the fact that he literally smacked into him is both statistically unlikely and doesn't really fit Surfer's character. He should be able to avoid a giant tree creature. That said, it led to a pretty neat adventure with Groot teaming up with the Surfer team, and it was a decent issue, so what you gonna do? The Groot comics were goofy, and I'll take a few dumb moments in the name of getting funny Groot comics. Number 3. Me Are Shrub. This pains me to include because I actually thought it was pretty hilarious, but it's also pretty dumb. In Rocket Raccoon and Groot number 1, Groot hired a team to make a delivery, and this team was none other than Pockets Possum and Shrub. Shrub, like an actual shrub, kinda similar to Groot. Oh, and Pockets Possum? Rocket Raccoon. Yeah, they were basically copies of Groot and Rocket. Shrub even speaks in a similar way to Groot, saying, "Me am Shrub." It was pretty dumb and didn't make a heck of a lot of sense, which puts it on this list. But honestly, I really like the comic. Number 2. Rocky spitting on Groot. This bit was really hilarious, and it's just a Groot being dumb moment. After Groot is reborn following his sacrifice against the forces of Phalanx, he's riding around on Rocket's shoulder. Apparently he gets thirsty, so he asks Rocket for moisture, and Rocket responds exactly as you'd expect, by spitting on the tiny Groot. Really, Groot, you should have known better than to give Rocket an excuse to cover you with bodily fluids. Just be glad it was saliva. Number 1. Groot picks up a hitchhiker. In Groot number 4, Groot found those same 3 alien stooges from earlier and takes their ship and them to go find Rocket. But when he sees Numinus, the guiding spirit of the universe, in despair, he can't help but approach her. When she asks if the universe is worth it, Groot, in one incredible utterance of "I am Groot," regales her with a story of struggles and heroics of Marvel's heroes, which was just wonderful, and he manages to convince her to go with him. But then on the next page, she's squished into the ship with Groot and the boys. This one's taking a break from the comics. In the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, we saw Deadpool fighting Spider-Man. At one point, a trap was sprung with arrows shooting at them, so they dive into water that turns out to be piranha infested, and they get bit. They shake off the fish, and Spidey mutters, "Booby trap." And of course, Deadpool starts laughing. Why is he laughing? Well,
You said traps!
I mean, trap is a pretty funny word. Number 9. It's just a mask, dude. In Deadpool number 9, Deadpool had just finished flirting with Black Widow, with some success actually, and was listing off their similarities like, we're both into guns, we both like kicking people, when he was interrupted by Taskmaster, who drops a bomb with, you both have faces that make children cry. Oh wait, that's just you. Damn! Then in an uncharacteristically non-clever retort, Deadpool replies, oh, you're one to talk with that stupid skeleton face on your face? Oh, you mean this mask that I can take off? F Taskmaster. Yeah, that was pretty dumb. Wait. Number 8. This is one that I'm sure many of you know about, but it's just so dumb I can't leave it off. As you may know, Thanos has kind of a thing for death, even going on a quest to destroy everything in existence to impress her. Yes, her. Death's a woman. Come on, get with the times. It's 2017. Anyway, Thanos realizes that Death is kind of crushing on Deadpool, so he used his power to make Deadpool virtually immortal, so that he could never be with Death. What a punishment. Hey Thanos, Death totally said I'm hot. Can you make me immortal too? Number 7. Deadpool is a great dad. And by great, I mean terrible. In 2014's Deadpool number 34, Wade had a heart-to-heart with his daughter Eleanor, and he's just the worst role model ever. First he gives her the lovely piece of wisdom that she should always carry a knife in her shoe for good luck. Then he does his own version of a pull my finger joke involving said knife. You know where that's going. While she does seem to laugh it off, these are not the type of life lessons you should be giving to your impressionable child. Number 6. Nicknames are hard. In A+X number 8, Deadpool is working alongside Hawkeye, and he tries to come up with a nickname for him. But apparently it's super hard because Hawkeye has heard all of them. How often do people call you Legolas? All the time. Nice shooting, Hunger Games. Heard it. Brave, the girl from Brave. Sorry, man. Man, I can totally relate. I grew up with the name Ron. Do you know how many times I was called Ronald McDonald? Do you understand the trauma one faces when people sing this stupid frickin' Harry Potter Puppet Pals song every time they meet me? Ron, Ron, Ron Weasley. Oh, stop.
And at 5 we have the Tricksters toy thefts. This one from 1965 features the Flash facing off against the Trickster, who has 3 evil, questionable schemes that have to do with theft. And what do these thefts entail? Well, him escaping on a hobby horse, a surfboard, and a tricycle. Classic Trickster. And how does the Flash defeat him? Well, he tries using thumbtacks, which obviously don't work. He just eventually punches him in the face to save the day, but I'm really curious as to why he thought the thumbtacks would be better than, you know, his super speed. And at 4 we have The Secret of the Empty Box. This one's from DC's Showcase Volume 1, issue number 8, and the story features a giant mystery box that appears in Central City. The whole city loses their Iris is sent out to report on it, and everyone's like, oh, what's in the box? So the Flash investigates, and he finds out that the giant box contains smaller boxes inside of it, and the whole setup was created by crooks using it as a decoy. The best part is they actually put a passage in through the box to a bank vault that they were looking to heist, which, you know, seems wildly impractical if your giant box is meant to be a decoy, but sure. Whatever. And at 3 is the cancelled Flash TV show. So this is the only one on our list that isn't a comic book. But trust me friends, it's worth it. In 1990 there was a television show created for the Flash that aired on CBS, and it was cancelled only a few months later. This is what it looked like. Yeah. And the most notable star who appeared on the show? Mark Hamill as the Trickster. And at 2 we have the invasion of the Cloud Creatures. So Barry and Iris go to this lecture that is being held by Dr. Wily Summers. He's been testing volcanic lava and has felt someone's eyes watching him while he's been doing it. So naturally he thinks that there are cloud creatures that are created by volcanoes, and that earthquakes are caused by cloud creatures trying to break out from the ground. Everyone in the scientific community laughs at him, but don't worry, because turns out they are real and they start attacking US Air Force bases. So how does Barry defeat them? Well, he tries creating a tornado to capture them, but it only makes them stronger. So then he jumps from cloud to cloud, attacks the center nucleus, and then turns the cloud creatures into ordinary rain clouds. But, I'm just not gonna question the science behind that one. And finally at number 1 we have the Swell-Headed Superhero. Featured in the Flash volume number 1, 177 from 1968, this issue has the Trickster deciding to up his game a bit technology-wise. He exposes the Flash to a camera that gives off radiation. And what does the radiation do? Well, it makes the Flash's head swell up, and it goes huge. This results in some pretty intense headaches for Barry as he chases the Trickster around. Eventually the Trickster kidnaps Barry and brings him to his lab, where Barry notices the headaches have stopped. So P starts whipping dishes at the Trickster and eventually knocks him out with a recliner. Then he finds an antidote in the lab which has some residual radiation on it, which is why his headaches had stopped. Yay.
Number 10. Hal Jordan recreates Coast City. So let's take this Hal going parallax thing from a different angle. Let's go back to the beginning of the descent, and this occurs after Coast City is destroyed during the death of Superman, Reign of Superman stuff. So Coast City, where his family lived, gone. 7 million dead when Mongol detonated a bomb, but it turned out he had been ordered to do it by Hank Henshaw, Cyborg Superman. Hal had been in space at the time, so returned to find it destroyed, and this completely unhinged him, just the guilt of it. And after it was all settled, he was so rattled he tried to use his ring to recreate the city. He obviously could not do it. But this was the beginning of the instability, and a sign that he was cracking. That's a creepy abuse of ring power that hadn't been thought through. You know, first you're recreating cities that you just have to sit in the entire time, just holding the construct up. Then you're growing Reed Richards hair streaks. Next thing you know, you're killing the entire Green Lantern Corps and blowing up in the sun. It's the natural progression of these things. But don't worry, he was possessed, so none of it counts. Number 9. Iron Man sending Hulk into space. So most people are vaguely aware of Planet Hulk, but did you know how he got there? Iron Man shot him into space in the lead up to Civil War. This is because him and some of his friends, Reed, felt that the Hulk was getting out of control. He was causing too much collateral damage, too many potential deaths, because Marvel has this thing that the Hulk never kills civilians, just, yeah. It's a modern thing and was a comics code thing before that. To that I say, sure Jan. No one's ever died in a Hulk rampage. Anyways, they felt they couldn't deal with him on Earth anymore. So why is this too far, you may ask? Are they wrong, you may be asking? Well, Marvel characters know that space is full of aliens, so it's fine for them to deal with the Hulk by just shooting him to space, where potentially other aliens can't stop him. That's ice cold Tony. This was the Tony going into Civil War though, so maximum douchery engaged. Number 8. Jean Grey outs Iceman. Let's get controversial. Let's talk about an event people are oftentimes afraid to talk about. So Iceman in modern continuity is gay. This was accomplished via retcon that featured time travel. But here's the thing, this wasn't a reveal Bobby came to himself. In the issue wherein this is revealed, Bobby is conflicted about his sexuality. In fact, it appears more that he's leaning towards expressing bisexuality, which would have lined up with the past big female loves of his life, which were genuine. But then Jean Grey just reads his mind and goes, Bobby, you're gay. So she reads his mind, without his consent, then interpreted what she saw there through her own lens, then told him what he thought in his own mind. based on what she saw. That's a big oof for me. Can we get some cringes in the chat, please? Yeah, many felt that this was a mishandling of what could have been a really big moment, and for some people was a really big moment. But a lot of that got lost in the crutch of, if you don't like this, there's something wrong with you. It became a thing you couldn't talk about, and in some circles still can't. But no one silences me. I'll talk about what I want. Number 7. Jason Todd replaces Nightwing. So Dan Didio has long had issues with Dick Grayson as Nightwing. He doesn't get it. He's like, he's not Robin, and he's not Batman. Whose mans is this? Flips table. So he wants two things. Well, either him dead or his name changed. Ideally both. But he got the name changed. That's why he's Rick Grayson now, which is pretty much the same thing as dead to me. Whoa, too much salt, I'm sorry. So in Infinite Crisis, Dick was supposed to die and Jason was going to become Nightwing, but the editors saved him and also writers protested, and so he got to live another day. But Jason was already Nightwing because this was pretty much a done deal. Dick Grayson's city had exploded while he was in it. He was dead. So Jason was also Nightwing for a bit, and he was unhinged. He was killing people and tried to kill Dick. This was prime insane Jason when that was what we were doing with him. It was the continuation of the greatest regret angle before the black sheep angle. Jason was slicing people's throats, leaving blood notes on walls. It was all too far. Too much. Most people have blocked this arc from their memory, along with that time that Jason was a tentacle monster. But I'll never forget. Number 6. Cyclops doesn't tell Jean about his wife. Let's talk about Cyclops and Jean. They are one of the iconic X-Men couples, but like Wanda and Vision, they have a pretty messed up history. After Jean died as Phoenix, before Phoenix was retconned to being a force and not her being mad with power, so basically the first Parallax retcon, Scott would pick up with Madeline Pryor, a woman who looked strikingly similar to Jean. This would turn out to be because she was her clone. He married her and the two had a son, Nathan Summers, or Nate Summers, who would grow up to become Cable after he was raised in the future. However, during all of this, Jean came back, and Scott was so thrilled he went to see her. But not only did he not tell his wife and newborn son where he was going, but he also didn't tell Jean he was married and had a kid. He would then go on to join X-Force, all without telling Madeline. He would be spending the entire time convincing himself that this was the right thing to do. For many fans, this was the beginning of their hatred towards Cyclops, because he just does not come off well in this arc.
And at 5 we have The Flash vs. Turtleman. What's the ideal nemesis for the fastest man ever? Oh, a turtle. Yeah, for sure. First appearing in 1956, you can only guess as to how Flash takes this one on. So after Turtleman robs a bank, the Flash chases him after he escapes via boat. The Flash is like, hey, no problem, I can run across the water because I'm super fast. But turns out his speed actually pushes the boat further away from him, and he literally says, since I can't capture the rowboat by running after it, I'll have to stop it by not running after it. Sheer brilliance. He realizes that that won't work because, you know, he's running on top of water and would fall into it if he stopped, so he just runs circles around the boat instead, creating a vortex, and then catches Turtleman in his arms and brings him to the police. How romantic. Up next at number 4 we have Colonel Computron. Okay, first off guys, look at him. We can all be in agreement that he looks, well, really dumb. Second, when the Flash faces off against him in the early 80s, I guess the writers were like, yo, let's just make a villain that's totally into technology. Cool, what can he do? Well, he'll use video game themed gimmicks. Yeah, great idea, high fives all around. So the Colonel was a toy maker named Basil Nerblin, who worked for a toy corporation and hated his job. He dresses up as one of his toy creations, Captain Computron, seeking revenge from the owner of the toy company, until Flash fights him off. But he literally puts the Flash into a video game. Or rather, reassembles him into living electronic impulses. Yeah. And at 3 we have The Flash vs. The Top. Speaking of stupid villains, here we have one named The Top that the Flash first encountered in 1961. The Top is a petty crook who liked spinning tops, and he taught himself how to spin real fast to deflect bullets. He tries to blackmail the world, because that's apparently a thing you can do, with an atomic top that, when it slows down, will destroy half of the world. He imprisons the Flash inside of it, but that's cool because then the Flash vibrates out of it. But that's not the end of the Top. How does he die? Well, his brain cells are destroyed by being in close proximity to the Flash's super speed vibrations, which hardcore injures his brain. But that's not where the story ends, oh no. He plants a bunch of bombs around Central City, prepares a recording where he talks about his terminal condition, and then tries to coax other people into defusing the bombs, which has to be done by gathering them and stacking them on top of each other. Cause yeah, that sounds like a plan that won't cause them to explode at all. Flash eventually stops the bomb from exploding, but that doesn't make this whole scenario any less dumb. And at 2, we've got the Cosmic Treadmill. Once upon a time during the Silver Age, the Flash decided that the best means of cosmic time travel was to use a device so powerful that it could send him into the future. Good idea. But what kind of device would be capable of that? Why, a cosmic treadmill would do the trick. So the cosmic powered treadmill kind of just looks like a regular treadmill, but jazzier. Yeah. He used it to time travel in a storyline called The Conquerors of Time, and while at first readers probably just kinda shrugged it off, this damn thing kept coming back. So what can it do? Well, it travels between multiple Earths, it apparently works by generating vibrations that shifts the user into a specific time, and it's super precise too. It does need someone super fast to run on it though to make it function. And the best part? Its origins are never explained. But why would they be? Because, you know, that's not how the Silver Age worked, friends. And at number 1, that time Superman raced him because the UN wanted it. Oh, come on, DC. The Flash does one goddamn thing and you're gonna let Superman almost emasculate him because Superman just has to be good at everything? So in 1967, in Superman number 199, the UN decides that, hey, let's get the Flash and Superman to race. Yeah, great idea. So they invite the two heroes to the office of the Secretary General, and the Flash and Superman are all like, well, what can we do for you, sir? And the Secretary General says, I called you here to make an important request of you. Yeah, we'll be glad to help the UN in any way, sir. And then the Secretary General is like, good, then you will not mind running a race. Cause, you know, the UN doesn't have better shit should be doing. So they run the race and it's a tie. Rad. But that wasn't the end of that. DC had them race again in the Flash 175 in the exact same year, with the results being a tie again. And then this happened again and again and again in later comics. And the Flash usually won, but barely, including one time where Jay Garrick won because he cheated.
Number 10, Identity Crisis, Mind Wipe. So many heroes were involved in this, so many. Zatanna does the actual wiping, but Hawkman, Black Canary, The Flash, Elongated Man, Green Arrow, and Green Lantern all help. And Superman knows about it. So Identity Crisis is a murder mystery that opens with the murder of Sue Dibney, the wife of the Elongated Man. As the story unfolds, we learn of a terrible event from the Justice League's history. One evening up on the Watchtower, Sue Dibney was up there, and Dr. Light snuck up there. He sees her and rapes her, as the plot says to. So when the heroes come upon this, they decide it is so heinous, Zatanna should wipe his mind and alter his personality, so he never hurts someone like that again. While this is happening, Batman beams up and is horrified by what they are doing, so they mind wipe him too. This event leads to him becoming paranoid and distrustful, as he knows something happened but not what, and it turns Dr. Light into a brain-addled idiot. So yeah, wiping someone's mind is definitely crossing a morality line, but wiping the mind of one of your closest allies because they were calling you out on it, which probably means you should have thought about it more, definitely crossing the line. Number 9, Green Arrow and Cry for Justice. Cry for Justice in general went too far for many fans. This is the miniseries that infamously killed Leanne Harper, Roy Harper, Arsenal, formerly Speedy's daughter. Just for shock value, really. It was quite awful, and then she was retconned out of existence, so Roy could be a relatable teen with a baseball cap. Progress. Now the cap's backwards. Cry for Justice involved a couple of members of the Justice League, most notably Green Arrow and Green Lantern, who are friends despite not being able to stand each other, quitting the League to go after the Secret Society, which would put them on a collision course with Prometheus. This is the extreme cliff notes, by the way. Prometheus is like the inverse Batman. His criminal parents were killed by cops, so he turned to a life of crime. Anyway, it's his actions that lead to Leanne's death and forces the heroes to let him go or he'll kill even more innocents. Green Arrow encourages the rest of the League to let him go, but then hunts down and kills him. Now I mean, he indirectly killed a little girl, but there's always been collateral damage. For Arrow to go and kill him now because it impacts the lives of people he knew, like his former ward who he wouldn't even help when he found out he was on drugs, no, it was Hal who helped. But now he'll kill for his loss? Not only over the line, but selfish. But Cry for Justice is from 2009. Lots of edgy stuff is happening then. Although some of you may be with Arrow in this, it all got retconned away anyway. But Leanne never came back. Sadness. Number 8, Reed joining the Illuminati. Really anyone who joined the Illuminati. The Illuminati was a secret Marvel team comprised in its first iteration of Namor, Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Professor X, and Doctor Strange. So why did I single out Reed? There's reasons, wait for it. The Illuminati wanted to find a way to deal with impending global threats or universal threats before they happened, a secret advanced squad who would decide the best course of action for everybody. Reed's solution to this was to go get the Infinity Gauntlet, or the stones for it rather, the gems. gems, which he was planning to wish out of existence. Upon finding he couldn't, he divided up the gems amongst the members. No more gauntlets for Reed. So many Reeds on the Council of Reeds had gauntlets. All of these behind the scenes machinations would play into Secret Invasion and Civil War. For all the repercussions this group ended up having, and what a dictatorial combination they would prove to be later on, yes, Reed and the Illuminati went too far. Number 7. Wolverine kills Hank Pim. Time travel is a tricky thing, and when you mess with it, you had better be prepared for the fallout. In the 616 comic verse, Hank Pym is the creator of Ultron, the sentient android who would grow to be one of the big villains in the Marvel Universe. So in 2013, it had actually succeeded in conquering the Earth of an alternate universe. This storyline was called Age of Ultron, or AU for short, which works because in fandom AU stands for alternate universe, so layers. The heroes of this conquered world end up finding a time travel solution, and Wolverine would be the one to go back and attempt it. Why? Because they have poor judgment. Also, he kind of forced their hand. Wolverine's solution was just to kill Pym before he could finish his work. The only thing is this ended up having a ripple effect and making the timeline worse and threatening the entire multiverse. The other heroes warned him about this. This is why Cyclops has to be so abrasive. Wolverine never listens to him. Nearly redestroying the world and messing up the multiverse because you wouldn't listen to others? Going too far. Number 6. Daredevil kills Bullseye. Death everywhere. This happened in the 2010 storyline Shadowland. This story featured a dark Daredevil just returning from Japan, which in Marvel always makes you brutal. Just look at Wolverine or Ronin. He decides to use the Hand's techniques to keep Hell's Kitchen safe, parts of which had been destroyed during the Dark Reign storyline by Bullseye. So he would seek Bullseye out and kill him in the same manner that Bullseye had killed Elektra years prior, stabbed right through the heart, all while wearing his new dark, evil-looking ninja black Daredevil outfit. Daredevil has also killed the Kingpin, after which he stood over the body and told the approaching news crews, "I tried everything else." Of course, everybody got better and Daredevil would go back to his code, and an attempt to be better than the criminals he pursues. And I, for one, am glad. Dark Daredevil is scary. Brutally murdering your enemies in front of people? Too far. That's anti-hero stuff.
Number 5. Jay Garrick's origin story. Hoo boy, this one's a doozy. Jay Garrick, the original Flash, was a chemist who specialized in gases emitted from hard water. One night he busts out a cigarette while he's working because the 40s, and he knocks over some chemicals. The gases released cause him to lose consciousness, and he wakes up with superpowers. Here's the thing, he's working with gases that come from hard water, which is basically a scientific way of saying steam. You know where else you encounter steam from hard water? The shower, every morning. I don't know about you, but I haven't noticed any superpowers lately. Plus, I know it's 1940 and smoking was everywhere, but maybe step outside the chemistry lab if you need a smoke. And if you insist on staying in the lab, maybe don't lean right where you keep all your chemicals. Whew. Number 4. Mopi. In a failed attempt to retcon Barry Allen's power origin, the alien Mopi was introduced, claiming that it was him who had caused the chemicals to give Allen his super speed. But now, since Barry didn't own the chemicals, he had to pay for them himself, according to alien law. No, Charlie, not bird law. Alien law. Allen had 24 hours to earn enough money to pay the alien back, which he did end up doing, so nothing happened to him. It seems that the writers realized that this whole thing was stupid because a later issue mentioned the hallucinogenic chemical compound monoglycetic peptide enzyme, or MoPi for short. So basically they said, yeah, we messed up, let's just pretend he hallucinated it all. But then where did all the money go? Number 3. Wally West outran death. A common complaint about most heroes is that they just seem too powerful to die. In Wally West's case, the writers took this trope even further, having him literally outrun his own death. In case you're not aware, the Black Flash is an incarnation of death itself that comes for those gifted with super speed. But when Black Flash came for Wally, he and his allies fought against it, with Wally eventually racing Black Flash to the end of time and space. Here, death had no meaning and Black Flash disappeared, allowing Wally to survive. I just think it's super dumb that a character can literally outrun death. It just takes away so much tension. Number 2. Fat Flash. In Flash number 115, the fastest man alive became the fattest man alive. In this issue, Barry Allen is shot by Gorilla Grodd using the body of William Dawson with a gun that causes him to absorb the moisture in the air, causing him to swell up. He's later hit with a memory ray, causing him to forget who he was, and he ends up being exploited in a freak show where people paid to gawk at a 1,000-pound blunder. After walking through the Hall of Mirrors, Barry remembers who he is, and he goes into the dehydration room to return to normal size. Then he goes and beats up William Dawson, because he made them all fat and stuff. Obviously this is unrealistic, but that isn't the dumb bit since you have to suspend disbelief with these things. But the whole story is just strange and doesn't really follow itself logically, with the amnesia effects and the hydration effects being taken care of super easily. There was just too much that happened that was way too convenient, so just dumb. Number 1. Puppet Flash. There's just so much stupid in this story that I don't even know where to start. In The Flash number 133, Barry Allen goes up against Abracadabra, the magical puppet master. After watching a show in which a puppet Flash was humiliated by the villainous Captain Cream Puff, Allen tries even harder to clean up the streets to get his cred back. Unfortunately, after running past an enchanted poster, he's turned into a puppet version of himself. He's taken by Abracadabra and forced to participate in the puppet shows, being moved around by strings. Eventually, he manages to break the strings and stumble towards a magician who, for some reason, is unable to outrun a clumsy, stumbling puppet and knocks the puppet master out. Then Barry takes the wand and turns himself back. Okay, first of all, I feel like the Flash should always be trying his best to clean up the streets. He shouldn't need a stupid puppet show to inspire him. Second, why didn't Abracadabra just hit the puppet with a broom or cast a spell on him rather than just going, "Ah!" Finally, the Flash reversed the spell by turning the wand backwards. He literally didn't know how to use the wand, but he went, well, he pointed it forwards to turn me into a puppet, so if I turn it backwards, hey, I'm better. So much dumb.
Number 10. Superman kills Zod. No, not that one time. No, Clark has killed Zod before. There was a precedent, but not as a member of the Next Snap Club. So in the 1980s, John Byrne rebooted Superman. In the comic, his origin was retold. Some characterizations were also tweaked. It was more of a tonal shift than anything. It was a new era for the Man of Steel. He was a different man, not the super jerk of the Silver Age and early Bronze Age. This new origin was actually far more in line with the 1978 movie and its 1980 sequel that also featured Zod. It was particularly in line when it came to depictions of Krypton. So Clark, when he learned of other Kryptonians and their histories and about Zod, decided that he was going to carry out the sentences that had been handed down to them, and so he executed Zod in the Phantom Zone with green kryptonite. And then he proceeded to have much angst about it. He even exiled himself to space, cause you know, death matters. So this went too far cause, well, it took Superman out of commission. The Earth was just there cause of this. I mean, he could have just left them in the zone. Zod came back anyway via retcon, so way to waste a death. Number 9. Flashpoint, Barry Allen. So Flashpoint is the event that leads directly into the New 52, and it was all started off because Barry decided he had to go save his mom. Now on one level that's super sweet, but on another, was he replaced by a pod person? When you're a superhero who deals in the mystic and the super science on the regular, you know that time travel is not something you should just mess around with. It always has zany consequences. It's never something little like, oh, cinnamon rolls are now the national dish. It's always, oh, you're not the Flash, and Bruce Wayne died, and Atlantis and Themyscira are about to destroy each other. And the world. So yeah, Barry created a separate timeline that even erased his protege Wally West from existence, along with so many kids and families, as his mom was dead. He was clearly not following the Vulcan creed about the needs of the many. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Unless it's your mom, am I right? Up top. Number 8. Spider-Man rips off a face for Kane. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and Kane have an interesting relationship. Kane is one of his clones from the Clone Saga, and was initially a crazed, unstable killer, capable of the Mark of Cain, which is where he used acid hands to burn off people's faces. So it would come as a shock to some that during the Spider-Man Grim Hunt, Kane would end up sacrificing himself for Peter, who was being hunted by the family of Kraven, the Hunter. And Peter was wearing his black costume at the time, so you know what that means, he's hyper aggressive. So he hunts down Kraven's daughter, well, the whole family, but he ends up ripping off her face as a kinda, that's for you Kane, all for you buddy, best clone, I took her face off. Just intense. This is one of those modern black symbiote suit stories, so they're upping the ante quite a bit. Number 7. Booster Gold, The Gift. Another time traveler abusing their power. Look, time travel really just needs to be given to voyeurs, just people who are not gonna mess with stuff. Do you want to wake up with fish hands? Because this is how you wake up with fish hands. So the Gift storyline for many was when they started to question, is Tom King okay? This started in Batman 45 in the lead up to the Bat-Cat wedding that never happened. Booster got Bruce a gift, a horrible alternate timeline, because he made it so that Bruce Wayne's parents didn't die in an alley. Listen, Booster, there are some heroes who can have their origins altered and some who can't. Superman, Batman, over at Marvel Spider-Man, leave them alone. The effects of this timeline were weird too. There was still a Batman, but it was Dick Grayson, and Selina couldn't speak for some reason and was all hisses and grunts. It sure was a story that I read. Time travel plots are hard to pull off, and they're not all created equal. There are so many at this point that when one flops or is just meh, it stands out. Booster, next time just get him a normal gift like a tie or a coupon for a massage. Number 6. Daredevil becomes Kingpin. So Daredevil has been fighting crime in Hell's Kitchen for quite some time now, and sometimes it gets to him. It's all too much. Such was the case during the Bendis run when he came to Hell's Kitchen, beat Kingpin within an inch of his life and went, look at me. I'm the Kingpin now. That's right, he took over Hell's Kitchen. Now some of you may be saying, earned, how is this going too far? Well, it was the fallout. Like all the gangs or even the Kingpin were going to just take this lying down, not likely. So there was a lot of collateral damage from this, and Matt would even have his identity revealed. It was all really just a lot of a lot. It's a favorite arc for many, but still too far, Maddie, too far.
And at 5 is shark repellent. Back in the 60s, Batman went through a particularly campy time period. Frederick Wortham and the Comics Code Authority were mainly to blame for this and some of the more ridiculous moments throughout the Silver Age that he encountered. So needless to say, this isn't the last time we'll be visiting Mr. West in the 1966 Batman the movie on this list. There's a scene where Batman is attempting a rescue on a yacht when he gets attacked by a shark. And how does he get out of this one?
Hand me down the shark repellent!
Well, he uses shark repellent. And at 4 we have Batbaby. This is one of my personal favorite Batman moments. A product of the Silver Age, this story from Batman 147 in 1962 features Bruce being shrunk down to the size of a toddler. He escapes from the fight with Robin carrying him in his arms, with his batsuit draping over him because now he's all little. But don't worry guys, that won't stop the Dark Knight. He's quick to realize that he's still capable of the same amount of physical strength, cause that makes logical sense, right? And decides he still wants to go out and fight crime. And Robin's all like, yeah, that seems like a totally plausible idea, let's do it. And he goes along with it. But what do they do about his batsuit? Well, Batman instead rocks some overalls, as one does. Eventually he's returned to his normal size, but keeps the Batbaby costume as a trophy in the Batcave, which is kinda weird. And at 3 is Rainbow Batman. From the 1957 Detective Comics issue 241, this one's just a good old fun time. So Robin is off saving a girl's life during a robbery, and does some real detective work when he starts tracking down the robbers afterwards. Meanwhile, Batman is at the Batcave having a real hard time picking out his costume. Yes, actually a thing. He's trying to decide which of his new rainbow-colored costumes to wear. Fashion, it's the real villain. So Robin's like, hey dude, we should probably do something about the fact that these robbers are like a lot of trouble. And Batman's like, hey buddy, you got a busted arm and the colored costumes are supposed to deter away from you so they won't know who your secret identity is. So like, it was all totally part of the plan. Sure Bruce, that's why. And at 2 is Zebra Batman. In our number 2 spot, we have a Batman moment that Robin is finally like, nope, not cool with this. About damn time, buddy. So there's this dude named Zebra Man who charged his body with energy so that lines of force rippled through his costume. He was able to control it via a button on his belt. But when he fought Batman, Bats was exposed to the lines of force, which altered his own body and costume, giving him the same ability, except without the control over the energy. And anything that comes near him would just go flying. So Robin's like, yep, I'm gonna keep my distance on this one. And then there's a whole panel where Bruce is really upset and is all like, I'm a menace to anyone who comes near me. Eventually the effects were reversed, but things got real awkward for a while and Bruce wasn't able to eat anything, which just sucks. And finally at our number 1 spot is the bomb. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Another fun scene from the 1966 Batman the movie. Here we have Adam West's Batman running around the city with a lit bomb trying to find a place to leave it. It even spawned a meme. So why is it dumb? Well, let's let the scene do the talking.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.